Good morning.
So,
This is Hongke Fong, uh, Dr. Y.S. Zhang, Professor of Chinese Studies. Welcome to this morning's seminar by Professor Johnny Chan. And the topic is, does the adoption of a central bank digital currency stimulate corporate innovations? And then we talk about the Chinese case. So before we start the seminar, let me give a brief introduction about Professor Chan. And Professor Chen is a long-term friend of mine. I know him for more than 30 years. And Professor Chen is a distinguished professor of finance now at Shanghai Business School in Shanghai, in China. He was previously the Leon Page Endowed Professor of Finance and the university's distinguished professors tenured at Western Kentucky University in the US. He is a chartered financial analyst and recently won a Fulbright Scholar Award from the U.S. Department of the State in 2017 to China. Professor Chen got his bachelor degree in economics at the Chinese University of Hong Kong and his PhD at the University of Alabama. And Professor Chen's research is very diverse, cover a lot of area, but one distinguished award he got is he was ranked number one in the globally in the financial education, in the literature, in the financial managerial finance issue. Professor Chen is a very prolific writer. He has published more than 300 journal articles in leading finance and business journals, such as Management Science, Journal of International Business Studies, Accounting, Organization and Society, Contemporary Accounting Research, International Business Review, Management Review International, Family Business Review, Journal of Corporate Finance. Wow, by the way, he has 15 papers published in Journal of Corporate Finance, which is a very distinguished honor for him to do that. I mean, it's not too many people published in Journal of Corporate Finance, and 15 articles is really a distinguished honor. So I'm very happy to have Professor Chang to come to talk to us today about the digital currency. And so let's welcome Professor Chan.
thank you. Thank you. Just make sure you hear me. So let me see. Okay, if you hear me, raise your hand. Yeah. Okay, good. So thank you for Hongke's nice introduction. I retired early in the United States 3 years ago, and I start a new chapter in Shanghai. So like Professor Fong, I'm very interested in finance research in a Chinese setting. So I figure out perhaps give myself a chance to really get some Chinese favor by start a new chapter in China. Okay, so I was able to work with some Chinese friends. So this paper also with a doctoral student at Fudan University, also in Shanghai. So this paper I think is interesting in the sense that that give me a realization that China and U.S. In terms of consumer practice, there are some differences. I don't know how many of you use those Apple Pay, those e-currency. In China, 90% or 95% of consumer use Alipay or WeChat Pay. So essentially, it's a app. Whenever you go to a restaurant or go to McDonald's, you open your app, you let the machine or individual to scan your QR code and you pay. All right. So you can choose to using password. So after the scan, you input your password, or for a small amount, you don't need to input the password. So what does that mean? Well, essentially you take care of all these fake currency challenge. Number one. Number two, you can receive and pay. So you can receive money from your friend through the app, or you can pay, or you can move the money to your bank or from your bank to the app. So back in 2017, when I was a Fulbright scholar, I thought it's very inconvenient. They kind of reluctant to take cash, but after using it the last 2 years, I don't want to use cash per se. So this paper kind of extension of that. So that is more a day-to-day phenomenon. But this is different in the sense that this electronic currency is from the Central Bank of China. The Central Bank of China is called People's Bank of China. So this is a government sponsor app. So different from Alipay and WeChat Pay, that is from private company. You issue the app. This is from government. Okay. So obviously it's almost 10 years late, but better than never. Okay. Kind of, if you compare it to United States, kind of unimaginable that the Fed will promote a electronic currency. And at least I haven't heard of. All right. But you may not aware that some European countries already try this. So have their central bank facilitate electronic currency. So China is not alone, okay, but certainly still gaining momentum. But the movement is there. So that's why we did some this research, and on top of that, I'll provide some background. Okay, so hold on. So why do we want to look at these? Besides innovation, I will also look at cash and other corporate finance topics, but I figure out let's focus on one is easier to focus. Innovation by itself is an important element in economic growth, and for a firm, for its competitiveness. So at the same time, central bank digital currency is on the rise. It's not yet popular, but it's coming. Okay, so we take that as a culture per se. So here, because if you use it, you basically change the way you spend money. So it is a cultural change. So we want to see how these cultural change affect corporate innovation. But this is not a traditional culture paper. Just like in US, like if a particular county seems is more religious, they have the companies there, individuals there seems to follow a certain pattern of culture. But this is not exactly those religious culture per se, but this is the way you spend money, you consume. Okay. So, but in those research, The middle one is a black box because we don't know exactly how the local culture translate into corporate decisions. But here we try a way to circumvent that. Okay, but just I'll talk about that later. Okay, but here is what is central bank digital currency? So it's essentially that APP from a central bank, and then the central bank actually license out to commercial bank. So sounds like you have, let's say you have a Citibank, you have a Chase bank account, you still look like you are using Chase APP, using Citibank APP, but behind is the government central bank. Okay, so why would the government want to do that? Because they want to, at least in China, they want to able to chase the money flow. They want to enhance the finance flow in the sense that if they want to, if they need, it's easier to see where you spend money, where you move money. It looked like there is a privacy concern, but certainly is only in case when a crime is committed. So if you are thinking, gee, this is too much government, but remember that even nowadays, United States, if you deposit more than $2,500 in your bank account, your bank, in strict rule, they have to fill in a form and send to the local Federal Reserve. So a lot of time you may not be aware your bank is actually currently actually doing it. But think about if you have a central bank digital currency, the bank does not need to fill a form because all these using big data, they can already trace this. So in terms of regulatory, it make it less costly and easier to trace. So the idea is to mitigate or make the money laundering substantially difficult to do. Okay, so because of that, we argue that there's some corporate effectiveness built in here. Now, the government actually, the central bank want to make sure the banking transactions is legal, is okay. I mean, no money laundering, no dirty money from a drug dealer like that. But here, by if you have a significant portion of the transaction is through this central bank digital currency, central bank like that can actually trace the transaction. So essentially, the government can save a lot of cost and energy to tackle money laundering, all these illegal monetary activities. Okay, so that's why several European countries actually start these CBDC, and China follow a few years later. So think about, I know we can use credit card, but credit card also have some other issue in terms of stolen identity, things like that. But here, imagine that if you have a central bank digital currency app, you have your password, you never turn in your card to the waiter or waitress. It's very difficult to steal your identity per se. Okay, even if they stole it. So let's say your app has money, somehow the criminal stole your money from your app because the money has to flow to another account. So it's very easy to trace. Okay, so basically, lower transaction costs, transparent, and traceable. Okay, So basically, it starts with several European currency, but China is very aggressive or proactive in terms of promoting CBDC. So because it implement in within several years, so there are some cities start doing it while others haven't. So we can compare and contrast companies located in cities with CBDC adoption versus in cities without the CBDC adoption. So the dependent variable is innovation, or you can change to other like cash, earnings management, anything you want it. So what do we find? So we find out companies in cities that have e-currency. I call those treatment companies. They have better innovation than companies not in cities with digital currency. There are some other innovation matrix like efficiency, quality like that in also the same. So by how much? About 11% better. So, but we don't have firm level data because the company may not disclose in their wallet how much money or how much of their funds actually is in the central bank digital currency. But we can use the investors interaction platform. Investors ask questions. Companies have 3 days to respond. We check if investors ask about central bank digital currency, and also company response to gauge if a firm actually using it. Okay, and as a supplementary analysis later. So we also look at, okay, we argued earlier that because it's traceable, other companies or lower level governments, they are less likely to misuse government subsidies. And we also look at companies' agency conflict, and their quality of information disclosure is better. Interestingly, we find companies located in cities with digital currency, they are facing lower financing costs, like lower bank loans, like that. So essentially, the effect is more salient if companies seems to have greater financing demand, greater need to do so. Okay. So in terms of research, we open a new area in terms of central bank digital currency on corporate finance research with a China focus in here. Certainly, all these digital currency in classic macroeconomics, it affect money supply, things like that, but it's not microeconomic focus. So our whole paper, or we actually did a few papers together, kind of opened a new area in this research. So what's the background lah? Let's say I'm sorry, it's original in Chinese, but essentially I can explain in English. Essentially, in your smartphone, you can download this digital currency app. All right, and you use it with your own bank account. Obviously, you need to put money in there. So once you download the app, like in this case, 2022 Chinese currency in there. You can receive, you can pay, and so on. So I translate this. This is a Chinese currency app. So basically, the central bank, the People's Bank of China, they developed this app, and you download, you put money in there from your bank account, and you can use it like Alipay or WeChat Pay. So certainly, because Alipay and WeChat Pay, they start 10 years ago, so people already had a habit to do so. And it will take time. But one thing I realized though, if you move money, let's say you want to put your WeChat Pay or Alipay money back to your bank account, you need to pay 0.1% fee. So for a, let's say for a restaurant or any shop, if the owner got the money from Alipay or WeChat Pay, if they want to move the money to their bank account, they need to pay 0.1% transaction. But if you're using governments, central banks, there's no charge on both scenarios. You actually save money, okay, for individual and for business, okay, if they use this app. Suddenly, some people may have concern, hey, I don't want government looking after me. So what the Chinese government do is, okay, if you want to do business with the government, you need to use it. Now, for instance, for a company need to pay tax or receive tax refund, you need to use the app. So if a company want to get government subsidies, the Chinese government said, we won't move the money to your bank account. We move to your app. So if a company want government subsidies, want tax refund, they need to have an app. So those become a corporate purse, or you can call that, but it's a company app. So that's how the People's Bank of China promote the central bank digital currency. So it will take time, but unless you don't, at least for individual, you don't need to. But for firms, unless you always pay tax, you don't get refund. If you want to get refund, you need to have the app. You want government subsidies, you need to have an app. So essentially, you need to use it sooner or later. Okay, so the whole thing start in late 2019 and moved to more cities in 2020, 21, and we use those comparison because there's still some cities not yet using the central bank digital currency, and we can compare companies in these cities or not in these cities, and so on. So basically, if some of you say, how come they don't use credit card? But credit card has some issues in China in terms of maybe a thick credit card scenario like that. But using the app, you don't have those issues. Okay. So let me show you well, it's in October 2021, the transaction amount, just because it started in late 2019. So these are the statistics I got. It's 62 billion local currency. So in 3 months, it jumped to 875 billion. So another 1 year, 4 months. So you talk about 10 times increase to 8,918 billion. So obviously the government is at play here. So because the government kind of saying if you want to get subsidies, you need to have the app. So think about what are the advantages. No permission. For government regulations, it's easier to see the source of fund, where the money go, and so on. And obviously, they use big data technique to do it. Okay. Now, think about in the past, even in the United States, you can ask the bank to trace. So the Fed can actually trace. But there's so many transactions it takes a lot of time, energy, and personnel to do it in the United States. Just like the bank will file a form electronic to Fed if you deposit more than 2,500, but you still need time. But think about if you use app, it's much faster to do it. So think about what are the consequences. Low transaction costs, because companies, at least some companies, they want to engage some illegal or quasi-illegal thing. They think twice because the app is there. Companies become more trustworthy and the financing cost is lower. And most important, at least in China, I don't know in the United States, but perhaps it's the same. When government release subsidies, the receiving firms may not use the money in the ways they're supposed to be. But think about if the government release subsidies through the app to a firm, the money is in the app. Let's say the firm moved the money from the app to someone else. There's one layer of traceable. So think about, let's say, if a firm agree, let's say a firm perhaps in a subsidized industry, they apply the subsidies, let's say, to expand research on electric car, let's say. The government then know where the money goes. If you apply money to develop electric car, and your money perhaps need to move to other firms, let's say research on battery, research on whatever relate to electric car. So if you move all the money to your bank account, the government will guess you perhaps did not use the money properly. So when the next time when you apply for similar grants, they may not put you in priorities. So because of that, government, the Chinese government is more willing, at least than before, to provide subsidies in the target industries because they can trace the money, where the money go. Okay, so that's make a big difference in terms of overcoming corruption, embezzlement, misuse of funds. These are in Chinese, but I can tell you this is, they talk about money supply, they talk about lower transaction costs, traceable, but these cartoons are from the People's Bank of China website, but they never talk about how that can change public finance decisions. There's our paper coming in. So essentially, we argue that the innovation is better. So the data actually, we look at the each company's innovation in terms of patent application. We look at 5 years before and 3 years later. So the first year have the CBDC is 2019. So we start in 2014. It's 5 years before. We did this in last year. That is up to 2022. So the first year is 2019. We have 3 years after that. But we can also look at 1 year before or after, the result are the same. So essentially, we have a panel data about 13,000 observations. Okay, now here's the picture. Give you the 4 different stage of that. These are the most are city names. In some cases, for the whole province. If that's for the whole province, that means all cities in the province is under that experiment. Okay. So we kind of draw the picture, let you have some idea. It's in a multiple regression framework. In case you don't familiar with that, so essentially we have a Y, the innovation matrix. So the X is compare before and after, compare treatment firm with the control firm. So that's the way to do. So there are different types of a innovation measure, patent applications. We take lateral lock for some, sometimes we don't, so we just put in all here. Now, so what is this? Now, let me kind of slowly explain this. Why is the patent applications? Because some companies, they don't have patent applications. So we add one, take a lateral lock. So to make it smaller scale, or we can drop the companies without patent applications, take the lateral lock. Or we can just use patent applications. If that is 0, then we take that as 0. Okay. So the idea here is treatment 0.311 means the treatment firm is higher than control firm by 0.311. All right. So this is different from 0. That's why we put a 3-star here, because that's significant different from 0. That means this coefficient is not 0. Okay. So you see across the board, that means companies in CBDC cities, they have more patent applications, and is 11% more compared with a control firm. So that means doesn't matter how you measure innovation, we still get the same conclusion. So remember that we talk about that. We don't know exactly if a company use the APP, but we can go to the investor company interaction platform. This is one unique thing in China. The stock exchange provide an online platform. Each company need to have a platform from the stock exchange homepage. So investors can post question. By regulation, company need to reply within 3 days. So, and those data are public. So we download those and we just look at those keywords if they central bank digital currency. And we also look at if companies reply with central bank digital currency. So we look at question, that means investor asked. So if a company actually asked, or if the investor actually asked, that positive effect on innovation is even higher. So that means if there's some indication the firm is actually using the central bank digital currency, because our setting is the companies located in cities that have central bank digital currency, but you can argue that the company may not use it. So in case they use it, the effect is even stronger. Okay, so that's what we show here. All right. So, and then we also look at the province level. So in 2022, there are some province level total level of number of users and the central bank digital currency amount. And then we do a simple count. The effect is better for province with more users or for province with larger amount of money in their app. So those results pretty much support that the central bank digital currency become a culture in terms of how at least company level spend or receive money. Okay. Now, think about I use the company's subsidy amount. Positive means company located in central bank digital currency cities, they got more subsidies. This is earnings management measure, REM also. Okay, this is real earnings management. This is a simple type earnings management. It's less. Disclosure, accounting disclosure quality, financing costs are dropping. Disclosure quality is better. So all these point to the central bank digital currency create a positive corporate culture in terms of government give them more subsidies, they engage in less earnings management, better disclosure, lower financing costs. Well, why? Well, that's consistent with argument that the central bank digital currency make the money traceable, make the money the government can fairly easy to do regulatory action. So companies become more careful in terms of all these practices, corporate practices, and that consistent with the notion. Okay. So we also look at the financial constraints. So these two are financial constraints. Negative means the financial constraint is better. I mean, not tight, not severe. So reduce that. R&D, companies spend money in R&D, and part of that is you have the central bank digital currency, the agency problem is less severe, and executives are doing their job because of the external monitoring in terms of the central bank digital currency. Okay. So basically, we also look at the patent application to R&D ratio, patent citations, exclude of sales citations, all positive. So is the company's innovation is better in all different potential matrix. So this one we can skip. So we can skip. And then I did a couple of more papers about cash management. So instead of looking at innovation, I look at a company's cash holding. So they hold less cash. If this is good, yes, because if a company can run itself with less cash, they can invest their cash in terms of R&D, other investments. So that means they are more efficient in terms of managing their cash. So again, because the central bank digital currency mitigate agency issue and companies does not need more cash. And I talk about real earnings management. So because that particular diagram I also put in here. Yeah. So essentially we study the impact of Chinese currency on corporate innovation, cash holding, and earnings management. Everything point to better. better innovation, holding less cash, engage in less earnings management. The thing about how does this matter to ordinary people like we are? So let's say we buy 100 shares of certain company. If this company is using electronic yuan, well, all else the same, the company seems to be more transparent. They hold less cash, they engage in less earnings management, they have better innovation. So this company is a sound company to invest. All else the same. I mean, compare with another company not located in a city with digital currency. So our founding is robust, so consistent with the notion that elevate the central bank digital currency elevate a company's financial constraints, agency problem, transparency. So all these are basic corporate finance elements. A company need to tackle financial constraint. If it has lower agency problem, it runs better. If that's transparent, investors or lenders are more willing to do business with the firm. So they got more loans or lower loan rate and so on. So all these point to it's not just the companies per se. So the electronic digital currency seems to provide quote unquote culture, a better corporate culture in terms of the money in the app are traceable. The funds are there, but companies know governments may be able to easily trace. Now, obviously, nowadays, with banking transaction is easier than 50 years ago to trace, but you still need the in the United States, it's FBI to apply for permission to check. But with digital currency, you don't need to. It's very fast. But certainly, the privacy concern is an issue. But certainly not in emerging markets like China, and that's about right. 45 minutes, so I can entertain some questions per se. Sounds like someone has a question. Let me check. So here one question from Keith. Are these some other characteristics of the shipment city and the company that may explain this result? We have control variables that control for company characteristics, like the corporate governance, and also we have the city level characteristics like the city GDP, populations like that. So we have those control variables, but in the PowerPoint, I didn't list those characteristics. Thank you for Keith asked for that. Folks, so you can type your questions. I'll try my best to answer that.
Okay, Johnny, I think this is a very rich area for research, and you have done an outstanding job to explore the various issues. And I'm sure you can publish many papers from this area. I mean, from what you have done so far, I mean, this is really rich area to explore. Have you considered what are the driving you talk about a lot of benefits deriving from the e-currency, but innovation can come from different factors. Have you explored any key driving force from the e-currency that give rise to innovation?
Well, thank you, Hongke. So yes, actually, we kind of have a core theory in terms of all these basic elements of financial constraint, agency, conflict, transparency. So we pretty much argue that the e-currency as an external monitoring monitoring device, monitoring procedure that restrain companies' agency conflict, promote corporate transparency. So think about if a bank noticed that, okay, because government is watching and the company's agency conflict is lower, the financial statements is clear because more transparent. So a bank is more, all else is saying, a bank is more willing to lend money to these loan applicant. And obviously the consequence, financial constraint is less. They can obtain fund easier. So that's why we find the cost, the borrowing cost is lower for companies located in the e-currency cities than those not. And I think we come back to the fundamental is the classic because the government using e-currency as an external, not deliberately, because the government use all these is primarily is for money supply and try to target money laundering, illegal money flow. I don't think the People's Bank of China really start with, okay, we want to promote lower agency problem per se. So this is an unintended consequence. And that's why make this research or several our research interesting, because this is not exactly what government begin with. And they end up they get something they haven't thought of. I think that's the interesting part.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Johnny.
we have another question. Let me answer that. Rachel asked a question. So there have been a rapid adoption of CBDC over the last few years, but there's still some areas that are not using it. What do you think the future of this program will look like? I think it's an excellent question because certainly there's some areas, just like remember the map seems on the East Coast or highly popular areas start first. And in the Southwest or the Western part of China seems still behind, okay, per se. It will take time, but I think the most challenge is from individuals. Because when I present this paper in a few universities, I ask the audience, students or professors, if they are using the e-currency from the app. They don't, because they are used to using Alipay, those commercial ones. So it will take time, and this is exactly why Chinese government is really heavy hand in terms of promoting that in terms of the corporate users. I think they are picking up because of the government mandate. Remember that the tax refund, you want to get subsidy, you need to have the app. So, but I think it's moving along, and the end, let's say if we publish some of these papers, the People's Bank of China research people, they will pick that up, and certainly this is another reinforcement that these People's Bank of China is doing the right thing, and they will put in more strength in terms of promoting the e-currency here. Yeah.
Okay, I do not see any questions. Okay.
Think about in the United States. Maybe I ask you guys, do you think this may work in the United States? So let's say the Fed try to promote a e-currency, at least at the corporate level. Will that work? I
Okay.
mean, any of the students can you can respond in the Q&A there.
I think they are too shy to respond. But I
So,
think several years ago, I mean, the Fed have explored the digital currency, but I think they got a lot of pushback uh,
uh,
because of privacy issues.
privacy concern. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think in US it's more difficult, and then of course, Republicans always stress that the government should play a smaller role in the
Mm.
economy rather than a bigger role. So I think it's more we have more hurdles in the U.S. To promote the digital currency than any other country like China. So because the government.
John Farley,
Okay.
he make a comment. This if you make regulations that force companies to use digital currency, then it will inevitably catch on. That's
Yeah,
his view.
that
Yeah.
that is correct.
But I think China is doing the right thing, but because a lot of people actually won't change because Alipay and WeChat Pay are very inconvenient. So this type of thing, just like once you use Apple smartphone, you won't change to Android. I mean, most people not always, but at least I didn't. But here it's just a habit. But again, if you use tax refund or government subsidies, just like I remember that during the COVID time, government sent out the money directly to your bank account, right? Because they have our uh, IRS bank information and so on, and it worked. But imagine that if that is using e-currency, if you have an app like the Apple Pay, the IRS actually put the money to your Apple Pay. Remember that we got $6,000 a couple of times, right, during the COVID times, and that may work actually. And as a matter of fact, in Hong Kong during the COVID time, the government paid out subsidies to everyone, just like in the United States. The government mandate that hey, look, you need to have a app or at least an electronic card version. So like in China, you don't need to have an app. You can have a card, but most people use app. But think about that's how the Hong Kong government do. We won't give you cash. We won't deposit in your bank account, but we only move the money to your app or to a uh, electronic card. So all of a sudden, all these people not used to use Alipay, they start an account on that in Hong Kong. When the government tries several times, they end up using Alipay in their day-to-day consumption, and that's how you change the habit. Unfortunately, some countries in the world miss the boat. I mean, when they pay out the public subsidies. Now, I have another comment from Rachel. I think that will be in resistance on the individual level versus the corporate level. So I think she's right, and that's why in China it's the same because when we used to Alipay, we won't change. Just like Apple Pay, once you use Apple Pay, is difficult to use other version per se. But I don't know. In the United States, seems to be moving slow in terms of digital currency per se. Yeah, but at least seems to be like I like to drink coffee, so I have Starbucks electronic currency, right? I put money in my Starbucks card or account or app. Whenever I buy coffee, I let the cashier scan my QR code. In that case, the reason I do that is after I bought 10 cups, I have the next one free. And that's how you kind of doing the app. I guess uh, it may work if there's some additional benefit per se. Yeah. And that's why the IRS or US government missed the boat. I mean, in the COVID times when they give out the subsidies, $6,000, they didn't really specifically request move the money to an app. So a corporate, I think corporate level, I think is fine. But in terms of all this money laundering, anti-money laundering effort, is actually target corporations. So I suspect even in China's case, if individual chose not to use it, it's okay as long as companies are using it. Okay. Because think about if you move the money, the People's Bank of China actually can chase it. So that is a very strong case against money laundering.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, nowadays that's how commercial banks detect money laundering, because all those criminals, when they, let's say, all these phone scam, they cheat people hundred thousands or even millions of dollars. They need to move money quick. They move money overseas quick. But think about if you put your money in app, you use app to, let's say, if some old guy get conned to pay all these criminals through their app, actually is easier to trace than bank account. And it is why it's effective tool to guard against all these scam.
Charlie, there's a question here.
Sure. Oh, is that right? Oh, okay. I didn't
Fine.
hear. Let me move
Yeah.
time. Okay, good. Harjes Singh asked, what are the potential implications of e-currency for global financial system and international monetary policy? Okay, certainly, I think there's a movement promoting the central bank digital currency. I think part of the global challenge is the all these illegal money flow, just like some drug lords or criminal move money across the country line. Think about if this is majority of the transactions are electronic currency, and it's easier to trade and coordinate by different governments, I suppose. And then the government can save their effort and resources to really pursue these criminals and make our global financial systems even better. And at least without all these adverse effect from criminal transaction flows and a lot of resources spent on anti-money laundering like that. International monetary policy, I would say each country, this is a new form of currency and is beyond traditional M1 or M2, but certainly it will be part of that. So, and it really affect the funds turnaround, just like you can think of that increase the velocity of monetary flow. Think about sometimes if you have money in your bank account, you use credit card, you take out cash to spend, just exactly what happened in the United States. You make the money flow velocity slower. But think about if you use electronic currency, let's say I scan my app or I buy items online, the money from my app actually move to the vendors pretty much within seconds. Instead of you physically go to a mall and use cash, they put the cash back into account. Even you use credit card, the credit card company actually withhold transactions for a month or two, and actually delay the slow down the velocity of monetary flow. And I would say once you accelerate the monetary flow, the monetary policy seems to approach more expansionary, or else the same. And in terms of the quantity of the money supply, that may not be big, but the velocity of flow is faster. So and make the monetary policy actually more effective.
Okay, I think there's another question here.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you. Mohammed asks, what about money order? Is it can be traced? The traditional money order actually, when you buy money order, you need to put down your information. At least if you do it cross the border, like if you use domestic United States, they don't check much. And if you, let's say, want to send money to Mexico or to Canada, you need to provide some information. So that can be traced. But money order seems to have high transaction costs. So if you go to Walmart or go to a lot of places, they charge $2 or $3 for that. That is some transaction costs. But think about if you move money through app, suppose is very low transaction cost or no transaction costs. To answer your question, money order actually can be traced.
Okay. I think we have all the questions. So I think that will conclude our seminar. So I'd like to thank Professor Chan for very interesting and stimulating talk, and then hopefully I'll welcome you back again in the future so you can give us more interesting topics. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Professor Chan.
Thank you, Hongge. So glad to talk to you. So your students ask good questions. Actually, there's one. So one more. So
Oh, one more. Okay.
how do you think adopting e-currency will affect the banking industry in the United States? So I would say if at least if corporations adopt the e-currency, that will they will use less banking service, and banks need to shake up, improve the quality of the service to retain their corporate clients. So at least I would think that way. Yeah. Thank you for the question. So sounds the students have a very good background in banking and monetary policy. Yeah. Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chang.
Yeah.
Okay, see you.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Yeah.